Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hello, how you doing, everybody? It is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. Time for yet another show. I feel like a nap instead of a show. Anybody up for that? Do we need to do that collectively? Should I just start snoring? Will that set the rest of you off? Is it like yawning? If you start hearing me snore, will you all fall asleep? Okay. Time to wake up and get back to business here. Daily Co's Radio is live now. We're reminded by Bill, all the way from Portland, Maine. This is unusual. It says Kagro X reminds you that this is Chocolate Mousse Day. Is it national chocolate? Is it international, this Chocolate Mousse Day? Federal level thing, state thing, local domain, I don't know. Chocolate Mousse Day, and please don't confuse it with salmon mousse, because I think we all know how that turns out. Okay. Why not? At this point, it's no more ridiculous than any of the rest of the things being said by important personages around the world, or at least allegedly important personages around the world. Donald Trump spoke again yesterday, and you know what that means. There'll be a long list of stories recounting the stupidity of what he had to say, including that, this was a new one on me, the noise generated by windmills causes cancer. That's a new one. I don't believe I've heard that one before. And you know what? He's challenging even our understanding of idiocy and lying. Ordinarily, I theorize that something that's stupid, or that's stupid sounding on its face, has a germ of truth somewhere, and I can trace the provenance of it and say, okay, well, this was a misstatement of the findings of a certain study, and then it was misquoted on Fox News, and then it was passed around in emails, and people believe this, this, and this, but not this much. You know, they don't go this far out on a limb usually. This one, I can only say, I imagine, grows out of his opposition to wind power on a number of fronts. One, of course, that it's a challenge to traditional fossil fuels, where the people he knows have made a tremendous amount of money, and so he's opposed to clean and renewable energy sources as an economic matter. And he also apparently has a particular problem with wind power, because he's one of those rich coastal landowning people who dislike offshore wind farms because they spoil the view somehow in ways that tanker ships, I guess, do not, or oil spills for that matter do not. But this is a long-standing pet peeve of his. Now, to jump from I don't like the promotion of wind power to the wind the wind causes cancer, or I don't know. I've never heard anything quite like it. I suppose there's something to be said about there is, I guess, noise generated by wind farms, and I don't know. I mean, maybe he cobbled that together with the idea of people being sickened by what appear to be some sort of strange sonic weapon attacks in Cuba, and he just thinks all sound can do bad things, and one of the bad things we have in this world is cancer, and so what the hell, let's throw it all together. I have no idea. It may have been that he was just, actually looking for something that sounded ridiculous, some sort of serious sounding charge, because cancer, even though the causality doesn't sound very serious, and because he was pumping up Republicans at the NRCC, National Republican Congressional Committee, fundraising dinner. So lots of members of Congress, Republican members of Congress, present there at the dinner, and he gave them some sort of I guess what he thought was a pep talk about how to approach the upcoming 2020 elections. And it included warning them that they needed to be more paranoid about the elections and about the possibility of their being rigged against the Republicans. And this, we're already setting up again for rigged election fears, thanks to Donald Trump. And I suppose others who have made the same claims in the past, who likewise are returning to the political arena in 2020. So I guess we got to keep an eye on that one. But, you know, of course, he brought no proof, no evidence, not even anecdotal evidence. He just wanted everybody to know. I don't like the way the votes are being tallied. I don't like it either, but I don't know what to say about it. I don't like sitting there and counting things. That's not a fun thing to do, but that doesn't mean anything is rigged, of course. But it was really more of an instruction to Republicans. If you lose, or if you feel like you're in danger of losing, you should absolutely raise the possibility of massive voter fraud on the scale of millions and millions of illegal votes being cast, et cetera, et cetera. Already pumping people up for that one. And I guess he just thought, while I'm on the subject, I'll throw in wind power causes cancer and see if anybody bites on that one. The more people who say it, the more I can claim to say that many people are telling me that wind turbine noise causes cancer. That was pretty amazing. That, and I guess earlier in the day, not at the same dinner, but at a sit-down photo op at the White House. I don't know what was going on. I don't remember the context of it, but he was asked about something, and he began talking about NATO and the NATO allies again accusing the Germans of not paying whatever it is he thinks is their fair share for expenses, for the expenses of NATO, the contribution towards NATO operations made by each of the member states, et cetera, et cetera. It's something he's been harping on for a long time, something no doubt very pleasing to Vladimir Putin and other opponents of NATO, but whatever. And, but then I guess he felt, I don't know, he felt bad about it, or else he thought, I need to establish my right to criticize Germany as an ally by demonstrating my close ties to Europe and Germany in particular. So he thought that a good way to do that would be to point out that his father was German. Born in Germany, born in a wonderful, very wonderful place in Germany. Two problems, of course, with his turning this story out. Well, one, I guess several problems. One, not likely to make the Germans feel any better at all for any reason. Two, problematic that all he can come up with was that his father was German, born in a very wonderful place in Germany. Now, a lot of people keep track of things like, where was my father born? But not Donald Trump, because, well, not at all, not even in the slightest, because, of course, his father wasn't born in Germany at all. He was born in New York. His grandfather, I guess, was born in Europe, but I guess it's still unclear exactly where this guy was born. But even so, I just was fascinated by the fact that Trump clearly did not know the name of the town. So all he could come up with is a very wonderful place. A very wonderful place I don't know the name of, because I don't know the name of any place in Germany. And also, he wasn't born in Germany, and I just lie about everything, and I don't really know why. But let's move on to the next point, which is, I might as well have just amplified the lie at that point. I'm German, as a matter of fact, and this is Germany. We're speaking German right now. Record-breaking levels of Germanness, many people have told me. And we could just assume from that point on that anything he said for the rest of the day was going to be garbage. And so it proved to be true. And, record-breaking day for dumbness, and that's not an easy thing to do. And I don't even get to the story that we have to track down about the strange Chinese woman that turned up at Mar-a-Lago with a thumb drive full of malware. Although a lot of us probably have thumb drives full of malware. We're not sure what she was doing with it. Many of us have it by accident, but I don't travel with it to Mar-a-Lago, especially if I say I'm going to a pool. It's a weird day, is what I'm saying. It's a Wednesday, And let's try and move from the weirdness to try and reestablishing a pattern which most modern human brains can understand so that your day goes better from this point on by turning to Greg Dworkin. Hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay.
You know, it's Wotan's Day, so we should all drink mead.
Is that the drink of choice? Is that what eventually killed Wotan?
Well, you know, you got to get together in a giant hall with a big fire pit right in the middle and drink as much mead as
reasonable.
possible.
I guess so. Mead sounds pretty good. I don't think I've ever had mead, but I'll go get a big horn to drink out of, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, you got to be strong enough to lift it, though. That's part of the whole deal.
Oh.
And you're right.
Like you know,
we're all Germans. We
sure.
all speak German.
Yes.
At least, you know.
Like Wotan.
I guess I could come close and say I've got some terrific friends who were born in Germany, and I know one or two German words.
German
and so
chocolate
therefore,
cake
that
is
means
terrific.
that my parents must have been born in Germany, right?
That's probably true. Oh, very wonderful.
And not New York
place
City in the
Germany.
early 1900s, like Fred Christ
Right.
Trump was. I watched that 25 some odd minute rant.
He thought it was secret. Do you know that? He thought he was off the record and no one was watching.
That's kind of hard to buy.
Part of it, he said,
was
someone's
talking to
going to
reporters.
leak this speech.
That he had with all of cameras.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. I'm
in
sorry. The
front of
Germany
everybody.
part was in. Yes, that's right. The German part
No,
was.
that was totally. You know,
Yes,
the fundraiser
right.
part you're talking about. The sound of the wind causes
I
cancer.
said don't confuse the two, and then I confused the two.
Yeah.
You're right. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. No, that one was the cameras were right in front of his face. So maybe but you know what? So as a matter of fact, he did say it. He was off the record. I'm German and. Whatever.
I
no
keep
collusion.
thinking that somehow or other he thought Jimi Hendrix, did The Wind Cries Cancer or something like that. He just remembered it
for
wrong.
that one.
It was a long time ago,
nuts.
Hendrix, and maybe he just didn't get it right.
Hendrix
he gets
was
a lot
German,
of stuff not
by
right.
the way. I don't know if you know that.
Anyway, there's stuff happening over in England,
Germany.
UK, jolly old England. The Brexit people are trying to figure out how to put the pig's breakfast on the table. So Theresa May, who really truly needs to resign,
German
is there have been some German kings.
Yes, that's right.
Over the years, it does occur on occasion. But she's talking with Jeremy Corbyn, trying to get some sort of deal.
Germany Corbyn.
And the idea would be, as I understand it, as it's not out, it's just taking shape. Is that there wouldn't be a people's vote because Jeremy Corbyn is a complete and total jerk. But there'd be a soft Brexit, not a hard Brexit, and they would stay in the Commons, and there'd be decreased movement of people, which seems to be what the Brexiteers really want. They want to keep non-white Brits out of the country. And so for some reason, Jeremy Corbyn seems to be listening to that. I don't know whether he's in favor of it. I have no idea what they're doing. But there does seem to be something other than just take Theresa May's original proposal and just keep voting on it.
Okay.
So what has to happen is that May has to show that there's some progress in doing something before she goes back to the European Union to ask for an extension, which is what this is all about. Give us an extension so that we can work out something, because we have something to show that we're actually getting somewhere.
All right.
But what they're coming up with doesn't really sound all that good, so I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, well, it causes
But then
cancer.
again, they don't either, so I don't feel bad about that.
Brexit causes cancer. I just I fixed it. Okay, so
Okay, there you go. That's what he meant by all
yeah.
that.
Now we'll settle this whole matter in a sane fashion.
Right. Meanwhile, back here in the good old United States of America,
Germany,
also known as Germany, right? The Senate is trying to change rules.
Yes.
And they want discussion to be 2 hours instead of 30 hours
like in Germany,
for judges and or other things. But
yeah.
in order to change that rule, you need a 60-vote threshold to overcome a filibuster. And, of course, they were not able to do that. And that's part of the plan. And then McConnell will say, see, you're blocking what I'm trying to do. So sometime this week, I will file for changing the rules so that this doesn't exist anymore. And goodbye, filibuster.
Or at least part of it.
Or at least part of it.
The filibuster remains.
Until he gets something else he wants to do. And then
yes, right. Well, I don't know. We'll discuss this one, I'm sure, at greater length a little bit later on, too. It's not the worst proposal he's ever had, and there's a certain amount of sense that it makes. It's weird the setup he has put in place, why this is necessary, and I'm not even clear on where they came up with the idea that a 60 vote threshold was necessary yesterday. I would love to take a look. Maybe Joan and I will take a look at the specifics of it, because ordinarily a rules change proposal, honest to God, rules change would require 67 votes, and since they knew they were going to fail, they should have asked for that instead. I don't know what they're doing. I'll
leave that to you. I totally don't understand. What I do understand is that he wants to change the rules and get more Republican judges.
Yes.
And whereas when Obama was president, he spent lots of time blocking those judges. Right. Now it's terrible, and so he doesn't want them blocked.
That's certainly the biggest part of the story. It's like just outlandish hypocrisy, but that's what he does. That's his job on a daily basis.
Right. So that's background. In the meantime, we still haven't seen the Mueller report. Today is the day that subpoena should come from the Judiciary Committee so that we can start that process, which is going to be a long process. It seems inevitable to everybody who's watching.
Right. I hope it's not inevitable.
Part of the Mueller report in a couple of weeks, that Congress is going to do whatever maneuvers they need to, which is to save the Democratic House to see the full Mueller report. And that at some point, Robert Mueller will be subpoenaed to talk to the Judiciary Committee, if not other committees, so that the American public has some idea of what's being blocked.
All right.
How long that's going to take, we don't know. So that's today. Meanwhile,
yes,
there were elections yesterday.
There were some.
We flipped a state Senate seat in Pennsylvania, went red to blue, which was good, but we look like we're losing a very important Wisconsin Supreme Court seat. The conservative appears to be about 6,000 votes ahead. There'll be a recount, but it's unlikely that the recount is going to change the result.
Well, I'll get paranoid about it, too.
So there's a lot of teeth gnashing about that. The major thing that seems to have happened, this is a vote Democrats expected to win, but they didn't mobilize Milwaukee. And that's not the first time that has happened, and it won't be the last time that has happened, and that problem is not fixed. There's lots of speculation about what's going on, and I'm not from Wisconsin. I don't really know the ins and outs of this particular candidate and how well she did or didn't run. I know that Brian Hagedorn, the Republican who looks like they're going to win, and Lisa Neubauer, the Democrat who looks like she's going to lose,
sounds German.
Had a pretty close, it all sounds German, right? It's likely unclear as to what happens. Liberals had hoped to have Neubauer win this year so they could be on a path to take control of the court next year when conservative Justice Daniel Kelly's term is up, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel writes. And this is from First Read. Last night's results hammer home 2 points. Number one, Wisconsin, which could be the state that ultimately decides the 2020 election, remains closely divided. Tony Evers just beat Scott Walker by 1 point in the race for governor, as a reminder. And number two, the energy from the Democratic resistance of 2017-2018 seems to have petered out so far in 2019. Democratic performance in Milwaukee County was down from a year ago. So, yes, we flipped a state Senate seat in Pennsylvania that Trump carried by 6 points. But this is not a great performance, and nobody's feeling really good about it this morning.
Okay. Well, I guess least of all the German people of Wisconsin.
Now, Josh Marshall was writing this morning that it's really kind of a reminder that because the Republican Hagedorn wrote some bad stuff about gay people, not particularly a nice guy, and Democrats saw that as a weakness and ran against him on that, and that wasn't enough. you have to take some lessons from that, and they're different ones, and they're not necessarily incompatible. If you look at 2016, if you look at this, you can't run on, gee, that Republican is really a bad person, I should win. That won't be enough. First of all, Republicans don't care. And secondly, the thing that you think is bad, they may think is good.
That is true.
And in fact, yelling about it being bad may just mobilize them to come out and vote for something that they think is good. So you got to have something else to win. Now, Josh Marshall's getting pummeled a little bit online because he said you really need, it's a reminder that we need to really concentrate on pocketbook issues. I don't know whether judgeship is the place to look for pocketbook issues.
So. There's not much you can do beyond
but
that.
2016 was and 2020 will be, and 2018 was one on health care. So that's a larger point that it may have nothing to do with the smaller point and still be true. But the idea that running on social issues mobilizes the other side at least as much as it mobilizes our side also remains to be true, unfortunately. And that's part of what I wrote about in the Pundit Roundup this morning. It's just a general reminder that people will say this is Trump's party and the party belongs to Trump, and now it's Trump's Republican Party. It's always been Trump's Republican Party. Republicans are allowing Trump to do whatever he does. They support whatever he does. The people who vote for him like what he does. This isn't Trump that's allowing all of the bad things in this country to happen. It's Republicans. Yes. Mitch McConnell was here way before Trump, and he thinks it's perfectly appropriate that if you're in power but your policies are not popular, it's okay to jigger the system to make sure that whatever happens, you remain in power. And he's doing it. He did it with Supreme Court justice appointments. He's doing it with even allowing hearings. He's using the power of the gavel, which is tremendous in the Senate, to determine what comes to the floor and what doesn't come to the floor. Yeah. And that's not Trump. McConnell would do that regardless who the president was.
That's always a good point to make. The Republicans, essentially, I mean, I guess any political party to a certain extent, but the Republicans maybe more so than most, simply adapt to whatever the leadership they put at the top. They're about lining up behind their leadership. Again, and that's what a party is all about. But Republicans, to a unique extent, adopt the stance of a singular leader when they have it, particularly when they hold the White House. And it means that they have to be extraordinarily careful about who they put in that position. Whatever they put there, if it's a, rumpled orange idiot, they're all going to swear to that as their, the allegiance to which they, or rather the leader to whom they'll swear their allegiance. And if he's an autocrat, so much the worse for all of us. So, I mean, they could change out different leaders, but if they're incompetent or idiots, or they're competent idiots for that matter, they're going to line up behind him and do what it takes to make sure no one takes them down and attach their fate to them, lash themselves to this leader. And unfortunately, they just picked the dumbest and most destructive one available.
So my point is that we did win 2018 on bread and butter issues. We're going to win 2020 on bread and butter issues. Trump is part of the fabric. Everybody knows everything they need to know about whether you're going to vote for him or not based on who he is and what he does. I would simply argue that what he does is a more salient issue because who he is isn't going to change, and Republicans are okay with that. So pointing out he is who he is isn't going to change a single vote. But pointing out what he does may well.
I guess so. It seems like it's, I don't know, it seems like a straight line to me. He is who he is, and you should all know.
You don't even have to make that a point. Everybody knows.
I guess that's true.
I need millions of dollars of advertising to reinforce the point that Trump is a complete failure as a human being. We know that.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is any Republican you elect anywhere will make it his central goal in political life to lash himself to this and become more like it. And
we don't have to say that. They will do that for us.
Well, all right then. I don't know what to tell you. Why didn't we win
On the
this
other
judgeship?
hand, I get that you love Trump, and I get that you're wrapped around his leg. I might point out that doesn't make you look good, but your Republican constituents may like that. But you're still trying to take away our health care. Let's talk about that. And that's really the issue. Public policy polling, for example, over the weekend found that only 30% of voters oppose Obamacare now, 49% support it. Voters trust Democrats over Republicans on health care, 49 to 38. And that tracks closely with the 51-40 Democratic lead on the generic ballot. That's the first generic ballot I've seen in a while, and an 11-point lead is not bad. Remember, we had all these discussions during 2018. What does a generic ballot mean? It actually means a lot. Does it mean anything this far out? No, but it means what it means right now is a snapshot. How much do you really need to be ahead given the gerrymandering and rigged vote and this, that, and everything else? About 8 points. So if you're 11 points ahead, that's actually pretty good. 7 or 8 points means you probably win. 6 to 7, 5 to 7 means it's probably going to be close. So, Democrats are relatively well positioned for 2020 without it being a lock, but there's just so much more to come. It's still the case even now, as we talk about with these subpoenas that are coming from Judiciary and Jerry Nadler, that we haven't seen the Mueller report yet. And it's not like it's going to be a magic bullet, but there is unquestionably bad stuff in there. We know that because we know all this stuff that's not in the Mueller report that's bad. And we know that if it were completely and totally exonerating, as Trump claims, it would have been out last week because Barr would have found some excuse to do it.
I guess so. Well, this will be interesting, and I guess now I'm thinking that the Wisconsin race is a test for people who say, the message is it's about the judges, stupid, or about the Supreme Court at the very least. And if you have
we did
straight
something
up
wrong because we did not mobilize Milwaukee.
I guess so, and the fact that it came as a surprise to a lot of us that there were elections going on probably had something to do with it. All right, well, they knew in Wisconsin.
We'll have to hear from Wisconsin people on that. They may have known.
Hi, it's me, David Waldman, your host for Kagro in the Morning, with a brand new interruption to say thanks to all of you who support the show. Remember when I told you that our average monthly donation was about $7, for which you were getting 2 great hours of news and entertainment 5 days a week, and how that came out to about 70 cents an hour? That's a pretty good deal, except it's wrong. The math actually works out closer to 17 cents an hour. It is hard to beat a deal like that, and even harder to send your kids to college on it. Thankfully, Patreon.com makes it easy to make that work. Patreon, Patreon.com, is the simple, secure way to make recurring monthly contributions to support our show. Just search for me or the show name on the site, and they make it easy to crowdfund the show so that the power of our numbers can keep the show going for just a few bucks a month. Once again, thanks so much for all your support.
So what's your...
All right. Yes. Oh, I'm watching various things flip by here, trying to just decide what to do with the balance of the show. But yeah, all right. Well, yeah, the Wisconsin thing. I mean, I think I saw late in the day yesterday people saying, "Remember, there's elections." Oh yeah, right. Where? Oh, what is it? The special election in Pennsylvania? Is that what we're talking about? I didn't see much discussion of it. Now, I don't know that there really would be. Judicial election in Wisconsin isn't going to get a lot of attention, but it should have.
Well, I got a Charles Franklin capper, which I think sums everything up. And then I'm going to move on to Joe Biden.
That guy. All right. Probably German.
We're all German. We're all German
Yes,
today.
Right. That was I missed my opportunity.
I'm not voting for Joe Biden because I can't stand the way he looks in lederhosen, and the same is true for Bernie.
True. I think that would ruin their chances.
I think.
I missed my chance to jump in and refer to him as Josh Field Marshall. Everybody's German today. National Germany Day.
Right.
Welcome back to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio in Germany, I guess, and we'll be broadcasting in German for the rest of the program. Never you mind that it sounds like English. It's just the universal translators we've implanted in all of you. And
that's right. Who are you going to believe, me or your lying ears?
Right, exactly. We haven't come up to that one yet. All right. What else is new here in Germany?
All right. So Charles Franklin from the MU Law Poll, the pollster,
yes.
very astute Wisconsin observer. I'll end this by pointing out, he says, whichever way the court race lands, this makes the 1-point governor's race last year look more indicative of the balance in Wisconsin than Tammy Baldwin's 10-point Senate win or Judge Dallett's 11-point court win in 2018. Further evidence Wisconsin is a tight swing state. And you got to mobilize your side. The argument about turnout versus persuasion. Turnout absolutely, positively is correct. The only question is, can you do both? That's where the whole idea of social issues comes in. Social issues are always a double-edged sword because they may mobilize your side, but they're going to mobilize the other side. Persuasion is something different.
I remain convinced that people don't even realize in states where they elect judges that that's the case. I think most people
right. It may or may not
that.
apply to this at all, and it may simply be, as somebody else pointed out, what this really means is that when minorities in Wisconsin don't turn out, it's a really tight state. And then when they do, it's not.
Right. So
okay, fine. What do you need to do in order to mobilize them?
I do not know. I will have to ask them.
Apparently, the Democratic Party doesn't know either because this was such a close race. So, again, that's just take whatever lessons you want from that, but don't count on anything. You still got to do the work.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to it, and we're constantly reminding people that the Democratic base is very much dependent on speaking clearly all the time to the many various minorities that make up perhaps a majority of our base. And Wisconsin, I don't know.
Well, the Democratic base is also made up of a lot of non-75-year-olds, so
yeah.
And they happen to be more consistent voters. They just are. So you could count them in on showing up no matter what kind of, it could be a dog catcher middle of the winter race, and they're going to show up and vote.
For retirees,
our side has to show up and vote too. And we have to make the candidates relevant. We have to make the campaign relevant. We have to invest in the get out the vote. All that stuff. You got to do the work.
Yeah, I don't know any. I wanted to make a comment, but I realized I just don't know anything about that race, and it would just be speculation. But okay, I will look into it with a jaundiced eye now.
Yeah, it just happened last night, so I think there's going to be more write-ups and maybe more salient things to talk about as the week goes on. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see if we can find stuff. In the meantime, Now for something completely different, let's talk about Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
I'm sick and tired of talking about 75-year-old Republicans.
So for a balance,
let's talk about a 76-year-old Democrat.
Excellent. All right. German, of course, for beginners.
Because today we're all German.
Right.
Biden's winning the age and ideology debate for now, says Morning Consult. New polling shows some voters have concerns about these characteristics. Now, there have been a bunch of less than sexual aggression, but more than nothing charges against Joe Biden. Multiple women have complained about him invading their personal space. I'm sure, without question, it's real that they feel that way. And I'm sure that there's going to be more because Biden has been a touchy-feely kind of politician for decades. And it's impossible that there won't be more. It just, he's been he's been who he is, whatever he does for too long. Mm-hmm. And so stuff is going to come out. And there are people who are extremely uncomfortable with that. And that ought to be taken seriously. At the same time, what also ought to be taken seriously is, for example, his baggage from being around that long, his chairmanship of the Anita Hill hearings, his stance on busing back in the day, his support for credit cards, given Delaware, a lot of things are going to be in his background, but he's also going to be seen as a long-standing statesman who, whether you agree with him or not, has some degree of foreign policy creds that, let's say, Trump doesn't. Overseas people trust him. And in fact, when you look at how he appears to the Democratic Party, because you got to get past a primary in order to run in the general election. Number one, we don't know that he's running. He hasn't decided yet. He's inching toward a possible third run for president, as Morning Consult puts it.
Yeah, right.
And most Democratic voters, this is something important to remember, regardless of what I just said about him in the intro, most Democratic voters view former Vice President Joe Biden's political experience a good thing and say he can keep the Democratic Party from moving too far to the left. Something he has cautioned about publicly is other Democrats have pushed more liberal policies, but even before his potential rivals for the Democratic nomination have had the chance to weaponize his age and moderate bent against him, chunks of the Democratic electorate agree with negative sentiments about the most popular possible 2020 contender. So there are people that don't like him, even though he's the most popular.
Sure.
Now, you can take that statement and point out whatever you want. He's the most popular. He is. There are a lot of people that don't like him or don't like things that he stands for. This is true. Right. So let's put this in perspective. More than 3 in 10 Democrats, at 31%, say they agree that the 76-year-old is out of touch with the challenges younger Americans face, compared to 52% who disagree. Okay, so if it's Biden out of touch with the challenges that younger Americans face today, 31% say yes, 52% say no.
Okay.
But if you ask the opposite side of that question, Biden's decades of political experience make him an effective leader, 73% of Democrats agree and 12% disagree. So he's got stuff going for him based on his age. Some people think he's out of touch, maybe a third of Democrats. But 2/3 think that his experience makes him an effective leader. Generally speaking, when you vote, 2/3 beats 1/3. Just pointing that out.
Yes.
Okay. The other part,
think
ideology.
He should be more out of touch.
Biden is not progressive enough to make the changes Democrats need. 33% agree with that. 48% disagree with that. Biden can keep the Democratic Party from moving too far to the left. That's specifically the question that Morning Consult asked. 59% agree with that. 15% disagree with that.
I don't know what too far is, but okay.
Right.
Neither do they.
It's hard to know. Presumably, they're talking about Bernie Sanders and Medicare for All because that's the lightning rod that everything, sort of focuses around.
I guess so. It probably
Sean
is.
McElwee, a progressive Democratic researcher,
right.
says the issues he views as most effective against Biden are the bread and butter economic ones. Banking regulations, the bankruptcy reform he shepherded in the 2000s, as well as his vote on the war in Iraq. Still, he said the support for Biden among Democrats so far is rooted in nostalgia for the Obama administration in which Biden served for 8 years. So he said, I think the support is very wide, but not very deep.
Okay.
He can get in there and go strong and run away with it. But beginning with these allegations about, how he has dealt or actually interacted with women over the years, there's a lot of willingness in the party to cut him loose.
Yeah, well.
So, welcome to the Democrats. Welcome to the primaries. You can't just win. You have to make sure the other guy loses.
Yes.
That's something I think we're just going to have to be careful and watch.
Right. Well, didn't help the Germans.
Kyle Kondik, managing editor of Larry Sabato's Crystal Ball, University of Virginia Center for Politics, cautioned against, because we're all Virginians today, we're not just Germans.
Right.
We're
Germany.
Virginian Germans.
Yeah.
That's the best kind. So cautioned against overemphasizing views about Biden's potential liabilities at this stage in the race.
Okay.
We know they exist, but unless he runs, the other candidates won't be weaponizing them against him. How he deals with these issues will go a long way toward determining if he can maintain the polling lead he now has as a non-candidate. Interestingly, Valerie Jarrett yesterday was asked about Biden, and she said, well, there are things, and I'm paraphrasing her,
okay,
but I'm very impressed with how he responded.
All right. Sure. Why not?
In other words, this is not disqualifying. Biden is not going to disqualify himself.
He's got a long enough record.
He's going to make people, and he's certainly going to make progressives uncomfortable with his run.
Yeah, well,
but if he runs, he may well win.
Some he won't.
Right.
Okay.
And so if you've already gotten a candidate, if you're already lined up behind a candidate,
Yeah.
and it's not Biden, you're going to be really mad he runs.
Yes. It's happening now.
Yes,
Of
and
course,
that's
true
part of the
almost everyone.
dynamic of, and for those who are criticizing him, you should step back and realize that that's part of the dynamic. It isn't just that you don't like what Biden's doing, it's that you don't like the fact that Biden's taking votes away from your candidate.
Yeah. Well, no one likes that.
No one likes that. But, be honest and be clear that that's what's going on here. Now, the polls say Biden has the best chance of winning against Trump.
Okay.
And every 4 years we have this discussion. You want the person who you think is going to win, or you want the person who most agrees with you? And, Democrats want to beat Trump. And so that's why even in the younger population, we talked about the Harvard IOP poll the other day. Bernie's very popular. Biden is second most popular. Why would Biden be second most popular in the younger population if the issue being brought up is, does Biden appreciate the issues that younger voters face? Well, the answer is because Biden looks like he can win.
Well, yeah, that will be attractive to a lot of people. It's
a lot of it is name recognition too. I mean,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Again, the whole we're not going to try to shortcut the whole Democratic primary process. First of all, Biden has to get into the race. We don't know that he's going to.
That is an important
Then he's got to
ingredient,
show that he can
seems.
raise money the way, let's say, a Kamala Harris can.
Yeah, right. True. That's another
Which-
issue from yesterday.
And yes, I'm picking that one and not some of the other ones who didn't raise as much but got more attention. So, you have to show that you could do that. Bernie's going to be a force. He's got his committed voters.
Yes.
And he's raising money. So the idea that he's just going to fade away is silly. And there's a race to be had, and we'll have to see how that goes. So, the first issue is Biden running? Make up your mind. Let us know what's going on. Then we'll talk.
Yes, I don't know if he's going to listen to us on that. He may take his time.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, I guess there's no point to the whole segment until he says he's going to run.
Well, you can't ignore the
yes.
fact that people are talking about him, and it's not necessarily in the way that he would want to be talked about.
That is true.
I wonder if Biden, the front runner, is coming to a decision and whether he's going to run and when. I can't wait to find out. That's not what the discussion has been.
Good, because that's dumb discussion. I wouldn't want to have that.
Well, if you're the candidate, you would, but that's not what Democrats are really talking about. They're talking about, your whole previous history of voting, including things like Anita Hill, where you fit in the modern Democratic Party, and how you deal with these now multiple allegations about invading women's personal space.
Yes. All right. Well, he's thinking about it.
Yep. Well, there it is.
On the train.
Right. Let's see, what else can we talk about today? Going to look at the pundit roundup and see some of the other stuff. This is an unfortunate one.
Oh.
Nearly 20 years after the mass shooting at Columbine High School, students there are putting stickers on their ID and cell phones to indicate their desire for images of their bodies to be publicized and shared if they're killed by gun violence.
Hey.
So you know how people have, like, I would like to be an organ donor?
Yes, right.
And you put that on your license. And when that first came out, it was icky, and now we talk about it like, fine, that's, no big deal, just check off a box.
Still icky a little bit.
And now, well, this is really icky, but they're making a point. And it was a very well-discussed point 6 years ago here in Newtown, because one of the parents opted for an open coffin.
Yes, okay,
to make a point.
Yes.
To make this very same point. And then there were the issues, well, should you show pictures like this or not? Well, and at the time, we said, you know what, it's up to the parents and the families. And so the kids said, okay, fine, it's up to us, we're making a point, we're letting you know.
Stickers for your cell phone.
The stickers on their IDs.
On their IDs,
cell phones.
Okay.
Yep,
all right.
IDs and cell phones. But they have this particular story, it's from CNN, I'll give you the tweet that goes with it. Because there's a picture.
All right.
And so there's a girl holding up an ID with the sticker on it.
Mm-hmm. I'll take a look at this. Yeah, all right. Huh. I can't really. You're gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to look really closely. I see
Right.
it's an
Well,
ID.
It's an ID. And if you look really closely, I think what you can see is there's like a little gunshot thingy there. And then it says something along the lines, of what we discussed. So there's that.
All right, I see it. Yeah, okay. Ooh. What an idea.
Yeah, what an idea. All right, so here's another thing. Just came up with politics. This is from Google Trends. And this is something I'm going to direct your listeners to the when Scott Anderson does the after show summary. Mm-hmm. This particular tweet should be there, Google Trends on Twitter. And it's a moving line. If you click on the little GIF there,
wow,
what you see is moving lines of Democratic field search interest rankings in 2019 so far.
I see.
And what they do is they have, as various and sundry candidates declare themselves,
yes,
what Google searches look like. And so it's kind of fun and mesmerizing watching it as it plays out with the 20 different graphs and lines. But if you freeze it,
what? For anywhere, yeah.
Okay, at the end.
Oh, at the end.
The people who are most being looked for right now are Biden, Buttigieg, Sanders, O'Rourke, and Harris.
Yes.
Followed by Warren, Yang, and everybody else. Tulsi Gabbard's in the
Good
middle.
job, Yang.
Maybe the fun part is who's at the bottom. John Delaney, Tim Ryan, Terry McAuliffe. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah, I saw a comment that people were talking about from Delaney, and I did not know who that was.
Right. So, or as other political commentators have said, how bad must it be if you're running in a Democratic primary and nobody's bothering to attack you,
or even look you up,
or even look you up?
I'm not even familiar with some of these people who they are. I guess I might as well make myself familiar, but it is very interesting, and it's a fun thing to watch. It reminds me of those carnival game horse race things.
Right. Julian Castro, who will not win the nomination, nonetheless has come out with a very interesting immigration policy, the first of the Democratic candidates to do so. Elizabeth Warren has interesting foreign policy. Kamala Harris has come out with teacher pay policy. This is exactly what you want from a Democratic primary at this particular point in time, where the various and sundry policies start to come out, and then people will like them, hate them, adopt them, yell at them, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have, while the policy stuff is going on, we have the aspirational candidates, and I would put Biden in that category, along with Buttigieg and Beto, who are maybe a little short on policy, but a little long on being that empty vessel that you could fill with your aspirations. And, maybe they'll represent what you think policy ought to look like. And by the middle to end of the Democratic primary, we'll blend those particular strains and see what we come up with. So just like with Wisconsin yesterday, there's a long way to go and a lot of work to do for all of these candidates.
Yes. Well,
so that's my segment for today.
Okay. Very good. There was a long way to go to that, too.
Yeah, aspirational.
Yeah, I think that works best, honestly. We keep saying we want policy details, and we do, but I think most effective is, you know what, anything.
Exactly.
It works very well.
That does tend to win, and those candidates who can represent, without being specific. If you get too specific, you tear the policy apart. But without being specific, giving general broad brush strokes of where you want to go, actually works better.
It does, which is the opposite of what we say we want and need, and I think we're right about needing that.
No question. But... again, and I've said this many, many times over the years, I'm more of a policy guy, but you got to have politics to get that policy enacted. If your people lose, see Wisconsin judge, you don't get to where you need to be.
Right. Okay. Well, just another good
recognize
reminder
that the politics are part of it, and do that. All right, take care. And hopefully you and Joan can talk about what the heck Mitch McConnell's up to today.
Germany.
I will remind you Jonathan Bernstein reminds us, Trump got no bump from Mueller. He should worry. He says, good news on the president's biggest scandal. That is to say, his claiming exoneration when it didn't happen, hasn't improved his ratings. And here's why that's bad news for Trump. His approval rating is the second worst of any president on record after 801 days in office, which is where Trump was on Sunday. Only Ronald Reagan was lower. Trump is dead last in disapproval. No other president was over 50%. He's also last in net approval. I would recommend don't follow his approval ratings, waste of time. Follow his disapproval ratings. They remain high, and they give you a much better idea of what's going on. And that's why PPP had the generic ballot in favor of the Democrats by 11 points. Okay. Take care, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Greg. And enjoy Germany. And,
I always do.
Sure. Why wouldn't you? Wherever you go, you're in Germany. I think I borrowed that from Buckaroo Banzai. Okay. We'll talk to you tomorrow then. Care. Thanks very much. And we'll move on from there, everything being German. All things being German. This is the simplest. That's the simplest explanation tends to be the right one. That's German's razor that we use to solve all of our problems here. Okay, man, where do we even go from all this? Let's see. I put aside a couple of stories, obviously, and a few tweets, and we'll try and sort out what's what here. But boy, is it complicated looking in Pocket today. This is the story that fascinated people yesterday, although I don't know. I think it's just too early to figure out where this thing is going, but I guess if you wanted to take wild speculation about it, I would say Donald Trump is a spy and a foreign agent, and that is punishable by death in this country, according to Sarah Sanders, who's very German in her outlook. But I'm willing to say that that's probably where this goes. But we really, literally, we don't know what the hell this story is about yet. And neither do you, because I haven't told you which one it is. It is the one reported by a number of outlets, including the Miami Herald, closest to the events on the ground here, so we'll go with them. Chinese woman carrying malware arrested at Mar-a-Lago, heading to a Cindy Yang event. So Cindy Yang, owner of the several massage parlors / brothels in South Florida, including, of course, the having started and then later sold the one at which the what's his name, the Kraft was picked up on solicitation charges and videotaped. But that's she's got a connection to all this too, and it's hard to imagine how she couldn't. The news as it broke yesterday didn't specifically name her, but you had to figure this has got to be a Cindy Yang situation. Sarah Blasky, Nicholas, what is this name? Nehamas, and Caitlin Ostroff reporting this for the Miami Herald. Our limited number of articles there having been renewed by turning over into April. We can read their piece. A Chinese woman carrying a thumb drive loaded with malware was detained at Mar-a-Lago Saturday after trying to gain access to events advertised on Chinese language social media by Li Cindy Yang, the South Florida massage parlor entrepreneur who ran a business selling access to President Donald Trump and his family. They put it as bluntly as possible right here in the first paragraph in the Miami Herald, and I have enjoyed their reporting on it and all of the events swirling around Mar-a-Lago. They're pretty on point about these things. I guess there's a lot to unpack. Like, there's no real explanation about what it means to have had a thumb drive loaded with malware. Of course, all of us have fallen victim to malware, probably of some sort, somewhere along the lines, and our virus protection programs might have protected us successfully along the way. But thumb drives are particularly, I think, susceptible to it, but they're also a great vector for introducing malware. And it's not clear to me whether the reporting seems almost purposefully obfuscating here, and I don't know whether that's the result of the Secret Service involved in this one and pressing the charges here. I don't know whether they're saying that. I guess what we don't know is, was the malware on this thumb drive something that she was the victim of, or was it configured in such a way that it seemed clear that, our IT specialists saying, no, what's on this thumb drive is like launchable vector, outward vector malware. The intent of what's on this thumb drive is to infect whatever computer you plug it into. That's what malware does. But in other words, was she just a person, like if I went traveling somewhere and for some reason there was a thumb drive in my pocket, and I guess with women carrying purses, it's much more likely that a thumb drive could be riding along in there forever. You put pictures on it, you're going to take them to Target and print them out, but it's also infected with malware, but it's in your purse. It's a little bit more purposeful when you're sticking it in your pocket and not carrying things around in your pocket all the time out of habit, as most other people do. But, so I guess the question is, did she just happen to have a thumb drive that was infected with malware, or did she have a thumb drive loaded with nothing but malware so that there can be no question about what her intent was in carrying it, even if there's some question still about whether she intended to plug it into anything in Mar-a-Lago. Anyway, we're still learning about what that's about. But there's so much other stuff that's shady about this person that it's easy to imagine that they were there for the purpose of injecting malware into some computer system somewhere. Now, I don't know how often open computer systems present themselves at Mar-a-Lago, but I guess you got to worry about these things. So this woman, Yujing Zhang, my best attempt at pronouncing the name, has been charged with 2 federal crimes: making false statements to a federal officer and entering restricted property. She was carrying 4 cell phones, that seems odd, 1 laptop, that does not, 1 external hard drive, and 1 thumb drive. I mean, that's kind of normal, except for the 4 cell phones, according to court records. In a charging document, a Secret Service agent, by the way, and if you're looking for glitches in Oliver Willis's Matrix situation, the name of the Secret Service agent that filed the affidavit that led to the charges was, the last name is Ivanovich, which I think was unusual. Samuel Ivanovich, but apparently from Ohio, so what can you do? Anyway, this Secret Service agent said a preliminary forensic examination of the thumb drive showed it contained malicious malware. The court filing did not provide further details about the nature of the malware. We need that. Zhang originally told a U.S. Secret Service agent that she wanted to use Mar-a-Lago's pool, which I guess is a thing you can do. But upon further questioning, said she had traveled from Shanghai to attend a, quote, United Nations friendship event between China and the United States. She said she planned to speak with a member of the president's family about U.S.-Chinese economic relations. That's a long way to go for something like that. And I guess the real point of this story is that people are so sure that somebody, whether it's Cindy Yang or someone else, can arrange that opportunity for them, that they're willing to fly from Shanghai and show up at Mar-a-Lago on the promise that they'll get the chance to speak to a member of the president's family, which is amazing all by itself. And then, of course, I guess we'll have to dig into a little bit more about what this malware situation is. And that you can get onto the property by saying, yeah, I want to go swimming. And Mar-a-Lago has a pool. There's more to it than that. And we'll look at that after this break. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio in Germany. And I'm going to do this all day, folks. No kidding. I want to continue with the very weird story of Yujing Zhang. Just to, I guess, I suppose there's also the possibility that she's just a lunatic. And I mean, that's a more routine story. Lunatics showing up at a place that they think the president might show up because they're lunatics, and giving some loony story about why they should be allowed in. And I don't think that at any point she ever came in contact with anybody who's a Secret Service protectee. But part of the interest in this story, or the part of the interesting angles on this story are that they got past initial levels of screening at all and how they did it. So, anyway, we learned about what she was carrying. The 4 cell phones seems a little bit strange, but I guess we're a little bit inoculated against that being super strange by Michael Cohen's stories and others with multiple cell phones these days. Anyway, so that was the story. She showed up and said, I want to use the pool. And I guess what I learned in reading the affidavit and a couple of the other pieces covering this story was that, and this is the particular weakness and the danger to, national security and the physical security of the president and his family, to the extent that any of us are concerned about that, this is why the Mar-a-Lago situation is bad for America, basically, to put it as bluntly as possible. She shows up and she says, I want to use the pool. And like you would think, the instant reaction to that is, get the hell out of here. I want to use the pool too, but so what? Get lost. You want to use the pool. It's a private club, for one thing, which is problematic and all that, yada, yada. But I'm a Secret Service agent, and no, you can't use the pool. But what's going on here is they had a check with Mar-a-Lago management because Mar-a-Lago is we know it's a private business. It's Trump's private business. He shouldn't be running it. He shouldn't be patronizing it. He should be staying away from the place while he's president of the United States for various and sundry reasons. And I will throw that one in there because Greg has already left. Various and sundry. But I don't know what to tell you. For the most part, for instance, okay, Barack Obama, he's on vacation. He's rented a place at Martha's Vineyard. It's got a pool. You show up and say, I want to go swimming. And they say, get the hell out of here. This place is being rented by Barack Obama and you're not him. Goodbye. But at Mar-a-Lago, there's the possibility that this person is a member of Mar-a-Lago Club or the relative or guest of a member of the Mar-a-Lago Club. And the Secret Service has to walk on eggshells because you might offend a customer of the Mar-a-Lago Club by not believing that any rando that shows up and says they want to swim at the pool and they've been invited there by a member isn't telling the truth. And so there's this moment at which you show up with 4 cell phones, a laptop, an external hard drive, and a thumb drive full of malware, having just flown in from Shanghai, and you tell the Secret Service, carrying no bathing suit, of course, no towels, nothing. I want to use the pool, and they have to check. Oh, hold on a second. Let me see if you can use the pool at the president's house. And there's a legitimate possibility that you might be allowed to use the pool at the president's house. This is why it's a bad situation. There was never a plan that would have satisfied a security expert or, an amateur security watcher, I guess, like just someone reading stupid newspaper articles like me. You're never going to satisfy the security necessities in a situation like this, where there are people who can pay for access, for one thing. That's a problem all by itself. But there's hundreds of members of this Mar-a-Lago Club, and he's running it still. The president is like a business, which it is, and it's his business, and he wants his customers happy, and he can't close the place off. So you have the situation where, anybody who's paid the right amount of money can invite anybody, whether they're screened or not. When you go to visit the White House, you go to an event at which the president is going to be present. The normal Secret Service protocol is if you think you're getting into this event, whether it's at the White House or at the Marriott ballroom or whatever, you gotta give ahead of time to the Secret Service your name, your current address, your social security number, all sorts of identifying information, and they do a quick background check on you. the Secret Service at Mar-a-Lago is in the position of having to say, hey, we take all comers. People show up, they want to use the pool. We got to go with it. And we got to check with the Mar-a-Lago management whether it's okay. So it doesn't matter. The person shows up, they're a Russian spy, Chinese spy. If they could be a guest of somebody, it's not up to the Secret Service to say, no, the hell with that. You're not going in there to use the pool. We got to get out of your way instead. As it turns out, there's a member of the Mar-a-Lago club with the surname Zhang, and when the Secret Service calls into Mar-a-Lago management to figure out what do we do with this person, they're like, what if they're related? We don't want to offend the good green money of Mr. Zhang. Send her up. And so failure number 1 begins. And, it doesn't get much worse than that. She arrives at the club and they're like, what are you here for? And then she changes the story. I'm not here to swim. I'm here for a United Nations U.S.-China friendship event. At which point then at least like the concierge at Mar-a-Lago can say, we're not having one of those today or ever. What are you doing here? And the alarm bell is raised and she's escorted out. But you see how this becomes problematic. Somebody shows up, and we don't know whether they show up on their own. We don't know anything about the backgrounds of the people who are members of Mar-a-Lago. We don't know who they are. We don't know who goes in and who goes out. They do not keep logs. They don't even keep logs of that at the White House. Huge, huge, huge problems with all of this, no matter what this particular person turns out to be. So, back to the story. She tells the first contact with the Secret Service, I want to go to the pool. They have to send her in because the Secret Service has no right to turn away paying members and guests of the Mar-a-Lago Club, which is bad. Then she gets inside, and at that point she says, nope, I have traveled from Shanghai to attend a United Nations friendship event between China and the United States, and that it was her plan to speak with a member of the president's family. Oh, really? You flew in from Shanghai and you got an appointment, you think, to talk to a member of the president's family. And that sounds pretty crazy, except for the fact that she might. What if she does? Or at least somebody who's a member or non-member, but appears to have frequent access to Mar-a-Lago, told her, yeah, I'll make that happen. Zhang's arrest was first reported by WPTV, and in court records, her birth year is listed as 1986, so she's a relatively youngin'. There was no United States friendship event on March 30th at the President's Palm Beach Resort. Trump had been staying at Mar-a-Lago, but was golfing at one of his nearby clubs, imagine that, at the time of the incident. However, First Lady Melania Trump and other members of the Trump family were at Mar-a-Lago, according to NBC, and so was this person. Although no United Nations-related event was on the club's social calendar, Zhang was likely referring to 2 events originally scheduled for that day. So there were some, but they got canceled for whatever reason, and promoted by Yang. So the original report and the original affidavit just basically said she showed up for this event and said, I'm coming for this event, and both the Secret Service and Mar-a-Lago management said there is no such event. That's why this is bad, and we caught you. But apparently there once was such an event, or at least such an event was claimed by Yang. One event, a safari night held to benefit a local youth charity, was canceled after the Miami Herald revealed that Yang, the former owner of the massage parlor where New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft was charged with soliciting prostitution, had taken photographs with Trump and other Republican leaders and used them to advertise her ability to get Chinese clients into events with the president. Well, okay. So Safari Night to benefit a local youth charity was canceled after the Yang story broke. I'm not sure why, but maybe she was planning to go to that. On the website for her consulting business, Yang also advertised a March 30th International Leaders Elite Forum, as she called it, calling it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, though really she'll make it happen a lot. And the first event at Mar-a-Lago with, quote, the Chinese as the protagonist, unquote. That event also did not take place. Not clear from this story whether it was BS from the beginning or whether they really once had such an event scheduled but ended up canceling it after Yang got essentially busted. No mention is made of Yang in the court documents charging Zhang, so I guess they're not sure of it just yet. But Zhang told agents that she was invited to Mar-a-Lago by a Chinese friend she identified only as Charles. According to court records, Yang worked with a Chinese event promoter named Charles Lee to advertise Safari Night and other galas and political fundraisers featuring the Trump family at Mar-a-Lago over the past year. So the pieces are there. I guess they just have to fit them all together. Charles Lee, runs a group called the United Nations Chinese Friendship Association, similar to the name of the event Zhang said she wished to attend. So basically everybody just makes up fake groups and pretends they're doing things. The group, which is not affiliated with the UN, has promoted the Chinese Communist Party and advertised events at Mar-a-Lago as a way for Chinese businessmen to participate in President Xi Jinping's so-called business diplomacy agenda, essentially an effort to have Chinese executives make friends with important people abroad. So I guess it's of some importance that the Chinese Communist Party considers Mar-a-Lago an easy and convenient venue for promoting this program. And golly, if you just won't get in by saying you want to go to the pool. Lee's website was taken down after the Herald reported on his activities last week. In a brief interview, he denied knowing Yang. We're doing great here. Terry Bomar, the president of the Young Adventurers charity that was to host the Safari Night event, said Zhang had not been on the guest list. It doesn't sound like it would have anything to do with this, but apparently this keeps coming up. A spokesperson for Yang's attorney did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A federal public defender representing Zhang declined to comment. In a statement issued late Tuesday, the Secret Service said it does not decide who gains access to the president's private club. Doesn't that seem weird? I mean, maybe it's not. But the Secret Service does not determine who is invited or welcome at Mar-a-Lago. This is the responsibility of the host entity. The Mar-a-Lago Club management determines which members and guests are granted access to the property. This access does not afford an individual proximity to the president or other Secret Service protectees. At least not automatically is what they ought to be saying, because once you're in, the president could wander into you no matter what you do. You might even be seeking to avoid him, for all I know, and he might chase you down. In such instances, additional screening and security measures are employed, I guess when they plan to bring an individual visiting Mar-a-Lago into close proximity with the president. With the exception of certain permanently protected facilities such as the White House, the practice used at Mar-a-Lago is no different than that long used at any other site temporarily visited by the president or other Secret Service protectees. And I think as far as it goes, that's probably true. You have a fundraiser at a hotel ballroom and the president is invited to speak. It is up to the hotel management, I guess, to decide who will have access to the ballroom. And then after that, you're searched by the Secret Service. But seriously, there still is a big difference in that if you've ever been to an event like that, you know that when you get your tickets, they say you got to give us your identifying information for the Secret Service to run, a computerized background check. And there's nothing like that apparently going on at Mar-a-Lago because people are just able to buy access to the place and membership there as a matter of course. And it's not that the ballroom is being reserved at this private hotel for that day for the purposes of accessing the president for his speech. It's a very different situation, and that it's so fluid who might be granted access there on any given day and for so many days. I mean, one of the things that makes Mar-a-Lago different from the Marriott ballroom where the president is giving a speech is the president doesn't spend 137 days at the Marriott or whatever the number is up to now. That he keeps going back there is a big part of the issue, and neither does the president own the Marriott. Well, this president happens to own a hotel or two, yes, But it's a very different situation when he's running a business that depends on pleasing clients, and some of those clients expect to be able to buy their way into this fortress where the president is staying. It's a totally different situation. Whatever the reason for Zhang's presence, her arrest raises further questions about the degree to which private citizens and potentially foreign rivals, that's an interesting way of putting it, can access Mar-a-Lago. What we've seen so far are the theoretical security risks that come from the ease at which people can get proximity to the president and his family based on the semi-public nature of this club. That's it. That's a very succinct way of saying it. Mr. Jeffrey Prescott, a former National Security Council aide under President Barack Obama and a senior fellow at the Penn Biden Center. There's Biden again. Now, the potential security risk may be an actual security risk. Prescott said it's too early to tell what Zhang intended to do with the president's estate, but if it was an effort to leave behind an electronic presence in order to record activities at Mar-a-Lago, that's a significant development. Malware, it goes on to tell us, is any type of software getting into a system that does something the administrator doesn't want it to do, said Greg Hall, an expert in malware analysis at the University of West Florida's Center for Cybersecurity. It can be anything from adware, software that automatically displays or downloads advertising material, to more nefarious programs that can enter a system from one computer and take data from other computers. Trump was in South Florida this past weekend, spending much of Saturday away from Mar-a-Lago at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach till about 3:45 p.m., according to the Palm Beach Daily News. That evening, he was scheduled for a roundtable discussion with supporters at Mar-a-Lago, organized by Trump Victory, a political action committee supporting his reelection. In other words, sitting around and shooting the breeze with his friends. Congressional Democrats have called for a counterintelligence investigation into Yang, who, together with family members and associates, has donated tens of thousands of dollars to Trump and his campaign. Zhang may not have gotten the message that the political furor over Yang had led to the cancellation of her events. She showed up at Mar-a-Lago at about 12:15 p.m. on Saturday, according to court records. After showing a Secret Service agent 2 Chinese passports, that's another problem, 2 passports, and saying she wished to go to the pool, Zhang was admitted to the club's main reception area, past several restricted access signs. Club staff thought she was a relative of a Mar-a-Lago member with the same surname, but a receptionist soon found she was not on a list of approved guests. So at least they keep that. Like to see it, though, but we can't because it's private. That led another Secret Service agent to begin interviewing her until she was arrested after becoming verbally aggressive with agents. Not a good idea. She was transported to the Secret Service's office in West Palm Beach. She could face up to 5 years imprisonment for lying to a federal officer. I don't know why that's funny. And 1 year for entering restricted grounds. As much as $350,000 in fines, according to court documents. See, it's cheaper just to buy membership in Mar-a-Lago. You save $150,000. Had Zhang not falsely portrayed herself as a club member seeking to visit the pool, and instead advised she was there to attend the non-existent United Nations friendship event between China and the United States, her access would have been declined by the U.S. Secret Service, according to a sworn affidavit signed by the agent, Samuel Ivanovich. Although Zhang had said she wished to go to the pool, agents found no swimming apparel in her possession, but that's okay. You know, they have some for you there at Mar-a-Lago. David Weinstein, a Miami defense attorney and former federal prosecutor, said Zhang's alleged crime would only have amounted to a simple trespass were it not for the president's presence that weekend. If he's not there, it's just a private club, he said. No espionage charges have been filed against Zhang. It's possible she may not even have realized there was malware on the drive, Weinstein said. Her detention hearing is set for April 8th. David Criss, an assistant attorney general for national security in the Obama administration and founder of consulting firm Culper Partners, said Zhang does not sound like some casual visitor. The amount of equipment she carried suggests the malware might not have been an accident, Criss said. It sounds very much like someone who's equipped to go to work once they breached the perimeter, he said. And hey, it could be true. much more to find out, much more detail to develop in order to figure out exactly what she was up to. But just a great illustration of how murky the situation can get and how easy, I guess, it is to get past initial Secret Service screening at Mar-a-Lago that you really shouldn't be able to get past because they have to defer to Mar-a-Lago management for fear of offending somebody who has bought the right to be offended for $200,000. I find that very strange, and I'm sure you do too. All right, let's see. Much more happening out there as well. It is subpoena day, and perhaps when if we get a chance to speak with Joan, we can catch up on what's happening there. Of course, nuclear rumblings in the Senate as well, as mentioned by Greg, and we'll get to that, no doubt, as well. She says there we are, a note from her, on my way. And boy, you really are on your way. Let's just start in right now. Good morning, Joan. How you doing?
Good morning. What are we starting in with right away?
Well, we could, you. I said, she's on her way. Oh, no, here she is. She started right in here. Okay. I was just mentioning, though, some of the various happenings in Congress today. Lots going on. More threat of nuclear activity in the Senate. And
yes.
Subpoena day, supposedly, over on the House Judiciary Committee. Any indication of either of those things starting during the morning hours, or is this an afternoon event?
Well, we've got Judiciary meeting now, and
okay.
Matt Gaetz being Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz, okay.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Empty wheelies, our friend Marcy's following that.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of nutso. Also, apparently, was it Steve King? Is he on Judiciary?
I think he's on nothing at the moment.
No, that's right. That's right. He got kicked off of everything, so it was somebody else. Anyway.
Okay.
Doug Collins opens accusing Dems of just trying to dig up dirt on Trump. It's reckless, and it's irresponsible, and it's disingenuous. That would be the whole report.
I love it.
Yes. Gohmert. It was Gohmert.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a lot like Steve King.
Yeah. Failed coup d'etat. Democrats are Putin's agents. Oh, no, Democrats and Putin's agents.
Oh, all right.
Yes. And Hillary Clinton.
Yes. And Alger Hiss. Okay.
So that's going as you would expect it to go.
Yeah, so everybody making opening statements about something, whatever it is they're planning to do today.
Yes.
I don't even know why there have to be statements made about that.
Gaetz declared that the Mueller report and this Judiciary Committee hearing is the death rattle of the Democrats. So.
All right.
Okay.
You're the death
So there's
rattle.
that.
Okay. All right. So they will hold an opening round of statements like this, break for lunch, come back and vote on subpoenas.
Yeah.
If they go ahead and get to that. No indication that they're looking to delay any further, I don't think, though there's been a flurry of letters from Nadler and other leaders of the Democratic side of the Judiciary Committee. Very sternly worded, no doubt, but no indication that they'll back off of issuing the subpoenas, I hope. But
not yet.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Stay tuned.
On the Senate side.
Yesterday, Mitch McConnell set up the vote that will allow the Senate to go nuclear on debate time.
Yeah.
Debate being a rather fluid concept in the modern Senate.
Right. Very often, nothing happens during debate time. It just ticks away to an empty floor.
Usually, yes.
That's the best point Republicans have going for them, if you're digging for one, is that the 30 hours of additional debate time on post-cloture, on anything, including nominations, usually just runs off and they take care of other business or do nothing or adjourn and just let the clock tick. And nobody's using the debate time to debate, and there's nothing to debate anyway. There's no amendments to nominations. So even if you spent the time on the floor, it would be saying this nominee is a terrible person, followed by someone else saying, no, this nominee is a great person.
Right.
So it's not the worst thing in the world. Most minds are made up by that time. The downside of it is that they're ramming through not only their own appointees at a ridiculous pace, but that their appointees are very often found rated not qualified for the bench or are otherwise insane.
And if you have the time, somebody like, say, Senator Tim Scott, the only African American in the Republican Senate,
yes, right,
has time to think about it, has time to read some of the more inflammatory writings of a nominee, and has more time to decide not to support that nominee, which has happened twice, I think, now.
Yeah, that's true. You could ponder it for 30 hours versus 2, although in a lot of cases, especially for the higher up courts, those nominations have been pending for a long time. But I would imagine that for a lot of district court nominations, people just don't have the time to read through their record.
Right, and this is what the debate time would affect.
All right.
Not circuit courts, district courts, and sub-cabinet level executive positions.
Yeah.
So not the secretaries, but the undersecretaries. Right. Those who are subject to confirmation. For the time being. Aren't the bigwigs. Yeah.
I guess they thought.
From 30 hours debate to 2.
Okay. So I don't know why they opted to go with that same pattern. I guess they thought it worked for the Democrats that they would first say it's all nominations except the Supreme Court, and then later when we needed it to be the Supreme Court, we just changed it. And I guess if later we needed to be circuit courts and Supreme Court also, and secretaries, we'll change that then later too. Yeah. Not sure what the window dressing gets you at this point, but I guess people like dressed windows.
It's Mitch McConnell being totally reasonable.
That must be it. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll take a short break, come back in 2 minutes, and report on the rest. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. It's me, David. Let's change things up from the old fundraising pitch for just a minute and talk instead about how you can be a part of our show. If you've got a smartphone or any other electronic recording device, why not sit down and record a segment for us? Read us an important article and give us your take. Or read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Then send the file to me at kagrox@gmail.com, and I'll try and work it into the show. Short segments, a few minutes in length, are easiest to fit in. And of course, I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to play everything, but if you've ever shouted at your radio or TV about something you wish was being covered, here's your chance to change that. Make the show your own. Send your submissions to me at kagrox@gmail.com. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We're just pondering over the break, well, among the many things we were pondering over the break, besides why does Donald Trump think he can manage the healthcare issue as a successful one in 2020, is the question of the procedure that they're using to make the latest nuclear rules change, which isn't really a rules change or something. But, I'm still unclear on why 60 votes was the threshold yesterday, unless there was maybe some unanimous consent agreement to make that the threshold rather than 67. But
I don't think it made a whole lot of difference. It wasn't going to pass.
Right. So, I mean, I thought
Meanwhile, however, I have slightly breaking news.
Oh, okay.
2417 House Judiciary Committee authorizes subpoena for full Mueller report.
Okay.
And its underlying evidence.
Okay. So that would be without
strictly
saying it.
Party line vote.
Yeah. All right. Without saying as much, that would include the grand jury evidence, but I guess other evidence as well. And you might as well leave it open-ended. You never know what else they might have.
Yeah.
Okay, so party line vote 2417. That was quick for them to get to it by 10:30.
It was. It's like an hour. If that.
Yeah, it takes them that long to do anything. You start a hearing, even if it's just for votes, I guess, or a committee meeting, not necessarily a hearing, or maybe they call them all hearings for that matter. But you got to have a round of opening statements, what I intend to do in the upcoming vote and why I support it or oppose it, and then you vote. You can't just vote. Why would you do that when you could make an hour's worth of statements? So, all right. Authorizing a subpoena, and I think with Judiciary Committee subpoenas, that's just kind of it. They don't have to be approved by the full House, do they?
Right.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. So there you go. Does it have a
and
date?
In addition, 5 former White House officials, Bannon, Priebus, Hicks, McGahn, and Donaldson.
Oh, okay.
Who's
So
Donaldson?
all included. I
don't
know.
remember Donaldson.
Yeah, I think we mentioned his name. When they listed the 5 in an article earlier this week, I noticed that one, and I said, doesn't ring a bell, but
Yeah.
All right. Well, the others do, and
Yes.
that's important. And so, does it have it? We have word on the date by which they're expected to comply, or
I have not
yet.
seen
Okay.
that yet. I'm
all
just
right.
just checking out Twitter.
I would imagine even before we get off the air, the copies of the subpoenas will be out there, and we'll get some idea of how long do we have to wait to find out that they're not answering, and and then that'll be the next schedule. Like, okay, when will the House Judiciary Committee meet to decide that they are in contempt of Congress for noncompliance with this subpoena? And then that they would have to refer to the full House. And then we would have to wait for the House to schedule a vote to declare that they are, in fact, in contempt of Congress. And then they would deliver notice to the White House that they are, and the White House would say nothing. And then at some point, we have to determine when will the House then say, okay, and we intend to do something about this contempt. And then, of course, the story goes on from there. It's just the beginning of a long process, which is why everybody has been so anxious that it gets started already. Okay. Well,
That's where we're at in the House.
all right. And
Now, back to the Senate.
yes, okay.
Probably the vote will be on Thursday.
Okay. Oh,
But here's an interesting
They're here to
thing.
vote.
James Wallner, who is a fellow at RSI, which I'd never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
It's a free market think tank, according to its Twitter bio. Anyway,
Well, there's
he
lots
points
of them
out
on the
something
market.
interesting.
yes.
There have been 128 cloture votes on Trump nominees
All
thus
right.
far. In 1 year, just 1 year, while he was minority leader, he forced 126.
Ah. So,
Which-
yeah.
Would sort of be a lot more, double the rate the Democrats are insisting upon them.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
What it
So
turns
what's his
out-
problem?
right. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know why it doesn't get put that way more frequently. I mean, they keep saying, unprecedented obstruction on the part of the Democrats, but by the same token, the Trump administration has seen its judges approved at a record rate. So what's the problem? They literally broken all records for this. Fastest it's ever happened.
And unprecedented is utterly shameless coming from Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, of course.
His argument, although he meant it completely on April Fool's Day, that Democrats were historically obstructing, I don't have words for how shameless it is.
Yeah,
How despicable it is.
it's nuts. I mean, in addition to having done exactly the same thing himself, he went above and beyond.
So much worse.
Yes.
Tom Cotton. Look what he let Tom Cotton do. He turned a blind eye while for over 800 days, nearly 850 days, Tom Cotton refused to allow a vote on Cassandra Butts, who happened to be Obama's friend, who he had nominated to be an ambassador to the Bahamas, because he knew she was his friend and it would, quote, inflict special pain
Yeah.
on Obama. to not allow the vote.
He did it just to own the libs.
Just be a dick.
Yeah. And that was fine and all within bounds.
And she died of cancer while she was still waiting for that vote.
That's,
Oh, 800 days. Nearly 850 days she waited for a vote.
And somehow he now professes to never have heard of any such obstruction in his life, just as...
Yeah. Well, and then there's, of course, Merrick Garland.
Yes. I mean, that's the one that we almost all go to first. Yeah, I thought you made a great point bringing that up yesterday.
So egregious. I mean, being... Tom Cotton's just egregious in himself, in his very being.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court is egregious because it's the Supreme Court.
Yes. And there are plenty of other Republicans who've done similar things. I mean, the record is rife with Republicans during the last administration, or whenever the last Democratic majority in the Senate has been, being very open about saying, I intend to put a hold on every nominee, no matter who they are, because X, Y, Z reason. Tom Cotton's was the lowest and meanest of the bunch, but it was commonplace practice. There was not even a second thought given by Republicans to declaring openly and on the record, my objection to this has nothing to do with the nominee or the issue in this particular bill. It's just a blanket whole. I'm going to say I object to moving anything because Obama was born in Kenya, because I'm mad about Obamacare, because Hitler socialism, as I used to say about everything. But that was common practice, and McConnell was a frequent participant in it, and now he pretends.
Well, he certainly signed off on it all.
Yeah, I mean, very often he was the one registering the objection on behalf of other people who were too lazy to come and do it themselves.
Yep.
They're too lazy to not work, which is amazing. But, okay, that's your turn.
Which puts us back at the point of Mitch McConnell being the source of all the evil in the Republican Party in so many ways.
Yes, well, a very prominent source. I have a feeling he would be replaced as a source of evil because they're
I don't know. It's because he is in a position to curtail Trump at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a position to actually be an institutionalist.
Oh, well.
To actually protect the prerogatives of the Senate.
You think somebody else would have been better at that?
That's what makes him so dangerous, is that he's completely willing to blow up everything in order to get those judges.
Yeah.
In order to get those unelected people in a position to block any kind of progress, any kind of legislative effort, any kind of executive effort by Democrats.
Well,
to keep the judiciary completely out of touch with the American public, really.
Yeah.
To set us back on everything from gay marriage to abortion to everything, regulation.
Yeah. Well, I guess I thought that there would be more Republicans willing to do such things, and
I don't know if they would be quite as committed and quite as effective as McConnell.
I guess
because
not.
he will have absolutely no qualms about doing anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
I feel like there are others who also have no qualms, but it doesn't mean that any Republican could do it. That's probably not the case. Although I guess at some point I wonder whether if you're just, look, the thing is we'll just object to any Democratic anything and obstruct any Democratic anything as much as we can and bulldoze the rules anytime they obstruct anything we want to do, then maybe a moron could do the job. But that's not what they have at the moment. But I guess if you swapped them out, I guess not just any Republican will do. If you swap them out for Tim Scott, you have a problem. He might have a conscience.
Just because John Cornyn's not that bright.
Oh, well, yeah. So for different reasons, they would not be as effective at the job.
A little slower on the
anything,
uptake, we might say.
Right. Whereas Tim Scott might do it because, oh no, I know what's happening here and I object to it.
Maybe as a principle or two.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I thought, well, there are lots of others, and I expect more of the same from other people. He is uniquely effective at it, though.
Yes.
All right.
But it doesn't happen without the full complicity of, say, Susan Collins.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, she was never going to take up the mantle of leadership there either. So more and more, they're all just falling in line. They realize that the path of least resistance in this job is give Trump whatever he wants. And if you happen to be also serving in the Senate at the time, I guess get out of the way of Mitch McConnell as well.
Yeah.
They'll just make your lives miserable. And they're miserable as it is, but they'll be more miserable. If you catch Trump's eye, he'll make fun of you, and you'll have to answer stupid questions about his making fun of you. By the way, I noticed that yesterday that some reporter thought it was, worth his time to ask Adam Schiff, what do you think about him calling you Shifty Schiff? And, he gave an interesting response, although my thought was, well, what do you think I think about it?
I think he's an asshole.
Right. I mean, it's just, what do you make of me calling you moron reporter?
Yeah.
I don't like that. Right. Well, you're not one. I'm just saying if I did that, what would you think of? But, okay. But, he just makes your life miserable if you do anything other than what he orders. McConnell is a little smoother than
and
that.
he just keeps their lives miserable no matter what. Well, Case in point this morning.
The country is going to suck. That's bad news.
Yes.
What do we have from this morning?
But, they do get their just desserts. Their just desserts being Trump tweeting this morning that, guess what? We're going to have a tremendous Trump care plan, a replacement for Obamacare, to run on for 2020. I never said it was going to happen legislatively, he said, despite the fact that a week ago he said we're progressing legislatively.
Well.
No, he never promised that, but they're going to have it. They're going to have it all developed for the 2020 campaign. Just wait and see, and it's going to be much better and less expensive than Obamacare.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, sure. And it also will have, I don't know what, dual overhead cams.
It's going to be a great campaign issue.
Okay.
Trump promises it's going to be a great campaign issue.
So if it's not happening legislatively, is that a signal that they don't have to develop a plan and that the White House will? Because they could do that. I mean, a White House could do that, not this one.
It's not clear. It's a wonderful healthcare package that some very talented people are now developing for me in the Republican Party. Now, those very talented people might be John Barrasso and Mitt Romney and Rick Scott and Bill Cassidy, or it might not. Those were the handful that he said were doing it last week, who all said, no, it's news to us. So whether it's them or some unnamed, very talented people, we do not know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything, and you don't know what to make about that. But I guess keep that in mind. It could be that senators welcomed the opportunity, but I guess this particular group of them didn't. It could be that it's people in the White House like, we throw together executive orders all the time. So, we'll slap together something and say it's healthcare policy. It could be a free market think tank.
It's going to be legislation.
Well, okay.
Because the House is going to be Republican after the election in 2020, and then they'll pass it. That's the promise implicit in these tweets.
I guess. But I mean...
Also, it will be on full display during the election.
Sure.
Capital E.
Yeah, maybe not.
And Republicans will always support pre-existing conditions.
Oh, sure. Well, yes. Of course.
It's easy. Yeah. They say we support pre-existing conditions, and
right. If
and
you
they
don't
say
care,
they do. So they don't really have to actually do it, right? If they're saying they do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's proven. That's a fact.
Twice.
Yeah.
Trump's Justice Department have told judges, oh no, pre-existing conditions protections in this law are unconstitutional. Twice.
Yeah, should get rid of them. I guess that's it. I mean, if Republicans just reconcile themselves to the fact that simply saying it is enough for their base, that no matter what the legislation says, I mean, they can be pretty sure that people aren't going to read the legislation. And a lot of people, if they read it, and it sounds an awful lot like you are actually getting rid of protections for pre-existing conditions in this bill. No, well, you just misunderstand it. You know, legislation is complicated. You know, legalese.
Yeah, but the thing is, we did okay with it in 2018. I think Democrats can handle the messaging on this one.
I mean, they ought to be able to. They've had enough practice with it.
10 years of practice.
Yeah.
This is the other thing. They're going to come up with something in the next year. They haven't come up with something in 10 years.
No.
That does as much as Obamacare.
No. They haven't come up with anything.
Yes, Trump. Be the Nixon going to China. Be the president that gives a single payer. Redeem yourself.
I mean, it would be all right, I guess, if he did. But this is taking on notes of the search for WMD at this point. It's, you know,
it very much is. It very much is.
So, okay, never has been a proposal yet, and amazingly, you still can surprise. You can still take a Republican senator by surprise by asking him for his position on healthcare reform. I don't know. I thought I guess it's a illustration of how thoroughly those I call the campaign in a box theory has taken over among Republicans, that has never occurred to them in 10 years, any of them, that maybe I should develop something because I haven't seen anybody else do it yet. And I'm pretty sure the newspaper keeps saying healthcare is important to people.
Well, to his credit, Bill Cassidy kind of has.
All right. And I guess
with Lindsey Graham
I'll just take
somewhere in his orbit. But, of course, what it does is nothing compared to what Obamacare does. It cuts billions from Medicaid, turns Medicaid into a block grant, which immediately there are millions more uninsured. Mm-hmm. Who, if they're uninsured, well, yeah, their pre-existing conditions aren't being really particularly protected.
Yes.
So, it's not actually literally true that they haven't come up with anything. It is true that they've come up with absolutely nothing that can replace the Affordable Care Act.
Okay. And so, I mean, so there are senators, Republican senators, who have worked out what might be, I mean, is it in bill form even at this point, or just?
I think last year Cassidy actually may have had, I don't know if it got as far as legislation. It was fairly well developed, but it was clearly not going to go anywhere because Mitch McConnell said, we're not going to have another vote on anything health care before the election.
Okay.
So,
and I guess, I mean, it wouldn't be out of keeping with regular practice to say, well, okay, another Republican senator, I'm not going to develop one. I'm just going to, well, what's my position? I like Bill Cassidy's thing. And you can say that because you know it's going nowhere yet.
Okay. Have any of them actually read it? Do any of them actually know what's in it? Unlikely.
Mm-hmm. All right.
They're trying their best not to think about it, I believe. And Trump's not going to let them.
Yeah, I guess. He's just going to keep reminding them that you're going to have to. Maybe. Oh, again, maybe his strategy is the same as 2016. He too had no plan. He just continued to say, although he sometimes just spit out, I haven't got a plan, but I will, and it'll be beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was enough.
It works. It works because that's what Republicans are now.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess so. I also note the tremendous dystopian irony. Like, of course, the person that he's putting at the point of all this is Rick Scott. I guess. Does this mean he's rejecting Cassidy, or just we're going to have Rick Scott shepherd his thing, or he's going to develop a new
Cassidy's
plan?
in on it. Supposedly Rick Scott is sort of at the fore, but Rick Scott says, yeah, I got other things on my plate. I'm working on making prescription drugs more affordable.
Oh, okay. I mean, I just like, the worst possible
Mitt Romney
person.
might be in on it.
Oh, well, now he by comparison, he's fairly legitimate in the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thing, and maybe that's
come up with Romney Care
Yeah.
in Massachusetts.
right, and he's implemented it, and it's largely responsible as a basis, a starting point for
Definitely the foundation for Obamacare.
It's just that Rick Scott is actually like known mostly in Democratic circles as like the guy who defrauds federal healthcare programs.
Right.
That they would
the guy
say
who oversaw the biggest Medicare fraud in the country's history.
right, record-breaking fraud.
Record-breaking
Yes.
fraud.
Donald
Biggest
Trump would have it.
fine ever for Rick Scott's company before he entered politics.
So of course,
yeah.
Donald Trump would say
Makes
that's the
him
guy.
the perfect guy for Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if once again it's like, well, who would own the libs most if I put him forward as a leader on the Republican healthcare plan? Rick Scott. Everybody knows that he defrauded Medicare.
If Trump has any idea that ever happened.
Yeah, he may not.
I have no idea what Trump knows or doesn't know.
That's true. It's
Except
the sort of thing that
the noise from wind causes cancer. He does know that.
yeah, well, there's healthcare plan, right, for that. We've got to take care of the wind-generated cancer. It's the sort of thing, though, that I think that, like a Stephen Miller type would say, what would be funny? Let's put him in. We'll put him in charge because everybody knows that he's a fraudster on this subject, and that'll make people furious. Okay. Maybe Pam Bondi told him.
Or Mulvaney.
Oh, yeah, he would know.
Because, Mulvaney's kind of in charge now.
We don't hear much about Miller anymore. I don't know whether he's operating in the shadows or trying to stay out of the limelight, or Mulvaney is stealing
I think that probably the sprayed on hair
I think that
did so much damage that he's had to fade into the background. I mean, I'm sure
really
he's there
be true.
being evil. He's just not doing it in public.
Yeah, I imagine that's the thing that chastens him in all this,
Well, if you look at the timeline,
You're right.
Kind of when he disappeared.
You're absolutely right. And of course, that's also the sort of thing that could infuriate Trump and say, no more TV for that guy. He screwed up the hair, the spray hair. And he could have ordered him off. Or it could be, I'd love to know, because I want to know what keeps their evil people under wraps and replicate it. But
it's usually appearance.
Yeah. That's true. And I mean, that drives so much of what Trump does, because he continues to insist every time that somebody's out of central casting or whatever. And even though it's like, I guess he thinks that's a big applause line. It's a big eye roll line for normal people, but he continues to do that. That people just look like they should be a secretary of something. So he makes them that. We're in bad shape, this country. I don't know.
I don't know. I will say it's more pleasant not having Stephen Miller.
Yeah.
On our TVs.
That is helpful. So I'll take it. Wow. All right. I don't know what else we can fit in. Although I note that I have failed to note so far the expansion of the fraud front in North Carolina. With the Mark Walker, I guess, now the latest entangled in this corruption probe of the GOP chairman in North Carolina.
Yes, something that Laura had been writing on, and our elections team. I was hoping it would be Mark Meadows, just because.
Yeah. Oh, well. But it's another Mark instead.
It's a North Carolina Republican.
Yeah.
All of them are in on it, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I suppose if you foster the attitude that you can get away with anything, and they have done that in North Carolina, then corruption takes root and people lose the fear that they'll be held accountable for it, and that just makes it more widespread.
Those black people, boy, they're gonna take every opportunity they can to vote more than once.
Yeah, nothing they enjoy more than standing in line for hours and
more than one time.
Right, everybody's going to want to go through that twice or more.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so North Carolina Republicans falling apart, but no one so far holding them to account. Of course, we get a chance at that in the upcoming special election. And then again in 2020, all you can do is say, hey, vote him out.
Right now, all we can really do is keep a laser focus on 2020.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll do that.
Oh, and speaking of which, keep an eye out for, hopefully, our Democratic presidential candidates responding to the presidential questionnaire we unveiled on Sunday.
Oh, okay. Yes, well, that ought to be exciting. And it'll be like the scene in Miracle on 34th Street when they dump out your mailbag at the offices there, because there's 100 of them.
I hope so. So. Unfortunately, we forgot and kind of timed it at the end of the quarter. So.
All right, so it's a little late, perhaps. It may take them some time to finish that up, but yeah.
They were kind of busy.
Okay, well, we'll give them maybe they'll get an extension on the deadline, and I guess I did see Adam Bonin start to wonder about maybe whether they could be coaxed to Netroots Nation to answer questioning from grassroots folks, and that's always an interesting and fun possibility.
Always a possibility.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for news on that front.
Right. We may have upwards of 200 of them show up, and there'll be no more hotel rooms for the rest of it.
It'll be a very big stage.
Okay. Well, a preliminary look at what it's going to be like handling those debates. Thanks, Joan, for coming by and updating us on all this. We'll speak again, I hope, next week.
Absolutely.
Very good. Take care. We'll speak to you then. Now stay tuned for Justice Putnam and the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy coming up next.
From Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
Now, what's coming up next? Well, he asks if Kushner is conducting foreign relations on WhatsApp puts U.S. security at risk. What would sharing the nuke codes on Instagram DM do? Could that even be possible? I guess anything is possible these days. Stay tuned for that story and much, much more next.